A lot of Florida Gators fans have major concerns about the defense this year, but I think their work in the portal answered questions there.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free every single podcast and on YouTube. I am Brandon Olsen, lifelong Florida Gators fan, your host of Locked On Gators. And, you know, I know that the Florida Gators had a great defense last year, lost quite a few pieces from that great defense, especially up front. And there have been a lot of, which, by the way, I didn't really expect it, but there have been a lot of Florida Gators fans, both in the comments and on social media, that seem as though they're a bit more concerned with the defense than I am, right? I mean, yeah, sure, you lost guys like Caleb Banks and George Gums and Tyreak Sapp, and those were all impact players. Brian Taylor Jr. Also hit the portal. Like, you lost quality players there. You lost Makai Boyero. I understand having some concerns, especially about the defensive line. But I think that the way Florida approached defense in the transfer portal not just told you that they had a plan, but also that things were going to be different on the defense this year. We'll talk about the defensive scheme again at some point. We'll talk about the offensive scheme again at some point. But I think when you look at the 3 transfer portal additions on the defensive line, you've got, because don't forget, there was a 4th. There was Samu Tamadapepe, but he flipped to Colorado, which was a bit of a shock for, I think, a lot of people. But Samu Tamadapepe flipped away. So that was your big nose tackle addition, right? Emmanuel Oyebadejo from Jacksonville State was thought of as the biggest name addition, right? He's someone who John Summerall was doing I think it was a podcast. If I'm remembering where he said it, it was a podcast. And he was basically like, hey, like, we paid a lot of money. Like this is a big time player that, you know, we were dealing with the likes of Texas A&M and Missouri, and he became a Gator. And so I think there was that big difference there of someone who was a relative unknown at the time of his commitment and is making more waves. By the way, just to self-plug here, swampsignal.substack.com, where I write about the Florida Gators, there is an Emmanuel Oyebadejo scouting report up there. There's also a scouting report available for the next guy, DK Kalu from Baylor. But Emmanuel Oyebadejo is someone who is a relative unknown, and now we're talking about him as like, all right, if he's not the starter, he's going to be a pretty significant contributor on the defensive line. DK Kalu is someone that's coming over from Baylor that started some games, didn't start some. He was used sometimes as a nose tackle, sometimes as more of a 3-tech. It was kind of dependent on the matchup, it felt like. Or, sorry, let me be clear about that. I thought it was going to be dependent on the matchup, because when they played a team like Auburn, he played a lot of nose. But then when they played a team like UCF, he didn't. And I was like, that's odd to me, just because I feel like those two teams, you would have both played him at the nose. Like, if you were going to play him at the nose in one of those games, you would have played him at both. But they didn't. His usage was very inconsistent, and I hated it. Frankly, I'm pretty sure even in the scouting report, I was like, I don't know what the Baylor coaches were doing up front. Because there were a lot of players on that defense where I'm getting sidetracked for a second. But there were a lot of players on that defense where I was watching them. And I was like, how the hell is this guy playing Power 4 football? I don't know what Baylor's doing, frankly. But DK Kalu's coming over. And I'm not saying he's, completely free of that, right? Like Baylor had some bad coaching points, it seemed like. And I think you got to work those out. But you work those out, and you're talking about someone that's going to be a contributor, because he does have 2 years of eligibility. So you can look at someone that's like, all right, well, you're going to come in, be a rotational piece in 2026. We'll get the bad habits out of you. We'll technically refine you. And 2027, that's when we're looking for you to cook. You also brought in Mason Clinton from Southern Miss, defensive lineman that was, I think, going to be an addition, whether or not Samu Tamanapepe still in the class or not. He ended up Mason Clinton ended up committing the day after Samu Tamanapepe decommitted and flipped to Colorado. But I don't think that had any impact on it because they're two completely different football players, right? Like Samu Tamanapepe is listed as like 376 pounds, and Mason Clinton is listed as, I think, like 270. So there's a huge difference there. Or depending on where you look. I feel like defensive line has the biggest gaps where it's just like, oh yeah, some places he looks at 270, sometimes 300. It's just really weird. But they brought in a trio of guys that can all play multiple spots without being liabilities. And that's the difference, right? Because there's guys where you can go, oh, like, yeah, he could play 3 tech and nose tackle. But if you put him at nose tackle, he's going to really struggle. You hope they don't run the football. And it's like, then he can't play nose tackle. Like that's it. Like that's what it is. If you go, yeah, he could be a light nose tackle, but he can't stop the run on the interior there. Then guess what? He can't be a light nose tackle. Just because you put a person there does not mean you could do it. Go put a receiver there then and go, oh, he's a light nose tackle. It doesn't work, right? And so I think that the importance there is bringing in a trio of guys that can play multiple spots on the defensive line, which again, I do think that this defense is going to be, I think the defensive line especially is going to be used in different ways compared to last year's line, right? Last year's line, a lot of the guys, like your bigger role was eat blocks, collapse the pocket instead of disrupting, right? Like you look at what they did on the line, and it was a lot of guys just trying to condense the pocket, collapse the pocket a bit instead of just attacking. Like the Texas game, they just attacked like crazy. And lo and behold, 36 pressures, if I'm not mistaken, in that Texas game. Crazy what happens when you focus on rushing the passer. I think this year you're going to see more of just we're going to attack and try to penetrate there. And as Gerald Chapman has said, the way that he likes to teach his defensive linemen is we're going to stop the run on our way to rushing the passer. Like that's what it's going to be, which I love. I'll be completely honest with it. I love that. So you got that. You have Emmanuel Oyebadejo is someone who is capable of playing anywhere on the line. Like I think you could put him probably not at, like a 7, like not far out wide. But you could line him up over the tackle and you can bring him in to be a light nose. And I do mean a light nose that can actually play it and probably help not be a complete liability against the run like a lot of guys. So you have Emmanuel Oyebadejo who can play anywhere on the line as a heavy edge. Let's say you're playing a run heavy, and we spoke about this the day he committed. Let's say you're playing a run heavy offense. Put him on the edge, let him seal that, shut that down. You're playing a pass happy offense, put him on the interior, let him wreck. That's it. If they run, they run. DK Kalu is more of a nose or 3 tech, so he's going to be working mostly on the interior between the guards. Again, his skill set's just it's really interesting to watch some guys from some schools because you can kind of look at them and go, oh, they're not super well coached, I think. Which is maybe one of the reasons that Gerald Chapman keeps taking Baylor defensive linemen. Maybe he's like, you know what? They're not super well coached. I'm going to take them and make them well coached, and we're going to see what we get from them. So maybe that's it. I hate the way that they're used there. I think a lot of the defensive linemen at Baylor especially were misused in 2025. And then you have Mason Clinton, who Southern Miss played a lot of nose. I don't want to see him line up at the nose at Florida. Not a guy I want to see playing nose in the SEC, but anywhere from the 3 to the 5, honestly, you want to try him at 7, go ahead. So you want to play him, head up on the guard, or you want to play him outside the shoulder of the offensive tackle, go ahead and you do that. And I'm comfortable with him being there as a guy that can try to shoot gaps, disrupt, and maybe make some plays there. But again, I think that Emmanuel Oyebadejo is going to be a significant contributor this year. I think DK Kalu and Mason Clinton really help provide depth and competition at the position where you've got a lot of bodies, right? Florida, if I'm not mistaken, has more bodies this year than they had last year, even though a lot of people are like, what? We just lost everybody. You lost the quality at the top, yeah, but I mean, they did recruit well at Florida. This is the same defensive line coach that recruited a lot of these guys. And if you trust him, you trust him, right? You don't trust him under Summerall. If you trust him, you trust him. And so I'm more confident about the defensive line, the younger players progressing, the Jeremiah McLeods. I'm really excited to see what he could be. But the younger players progressing, and then everything else kind of just working into the system and working into the scheme. I think that'll all work out. The secondary also saw a lot of additions for the Florida Gators. We'll talk about that when we get back with Locked On Gators. Tax season doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax full service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert start to finish without the stress or guesswork. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out these forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect online. It's a huge time saver and gives you real peace of mind knowing that an expert is handling it for a limited time. You can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in if a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year. Just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit turbotax.com/local to book your appointment today. Thanks again for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free to the podcast and on YouTube. And in the secondary, the Florida Gators added, again, a handful of players that I do think are going to be significant contributors this year. And again, like Mason Clinton, DK Kalu, I'm like, hey, you want to be more rotational this year and then next year we're talking about you as a bigger player, then let's talk about that. But in the secondary, I think you added two guys that I view as immediate significant contributors, and they're both at safety, right? It's DJ Coleman from Baylor and Cam Dooley from Kentucky. I've said it before with DJ Coleman. There's maybe one safety in the transfer portal that I would take over him of the safeties that hit the portal. I don't care about, Boston College kid that I think went to Miami. I don't care about most of the guys that hit the portal compared to DJ Coleman, right? For me, it's I forget Coy from Minnesota and then DJ Coleman. Big fan of what DJ brings to the table. Wrote his scouting report as well. Big fan of what he brings to the table. And I really think he's someone that can come in and start at either safety or nickel. Cam Dooley from Kentucky also came in, and it's important to remind people that Cam Dooley was at Kentucky, and that means that he played under defensive coordinator Brad White, but also safeties coach, who at Kentucky had the entire secondary underneath him, but safeties coach Chris Collins. And so Cam Dooley has experience not just with the system, but with the specific coaches as well. He's also someone that can play safety or can play nickel. And I love what you did at safety. I do. You brought Bryce Thornton back, who to me was the only part of the safety room that actually worked last year, which again, I don't really blame the players for in 2025. They were coached by an underqualified guy in Vinny Sinceri. He had coached safeties for 1 year and was a running backs coach prior to that. And then he came to Florida, and surprisingly enough, that didn't work out too well. Turns out that just playing a position doesn't make you a good coach at it. For everybody that goes, what about bringing this Florida legend back to be this position coach? That's not how things work, right? That's not winning programs there. Okay, just want to throw that out there. But I think Bryce Thornton was the only part of the safety room that actually worked for the Florida Gators in 2025. He's back. Expecting him to be a starter. I think he'll be a schematic fit for this defense, whether they go the Brad White route or the Greg Disparito, John Summerall route. Whatever system they want to run or want to focus more on, I think he's a good fit for him. I think he's very versatile safety, very smart safety. I don't think that Bryce has a super high ceiling, but I think he has a ridiculously high floor. So fair trade-off. DJ Coleman and Cam Dooley are both guys that can come in, and I'm comfortable if you want to say, hey, one of these guys is starting at safety, one of these guys is starting at nickel. Go ahead. Like I'm frankly fine with both those guys there. And like when I think of who I would rather have somewhere, I think I'd rather have DJ Coleman at nickel and Cam Dooley at safety. Just because I think what DJ can do is wild at safety at nickel. I think he could be a really big help there. They can command up tight ends, can take slots, play zone, rush the passer, defend the run. Like I think he could do a lot there. And so I think that DJ Coleman would be better at nickel. As I said this, before we even knew Florida was targeting him, we spoke about him and it was like, all right, I would prefer him at nickel, but I'd take him at safety. And I have not said that about a lot of the players that, Napier recruited. I was not like, yeah, like I'll take him at any position. The hell, I mean, DJ Douglas is one of them, right? Where I was like, oh, don't really want him. Michael Carraway Jr. is one that they brought him in to play outside corner, and I was like, please don't. That'll be awful. So you got that. Also at nickel is Kanye Clark from UCLA, a corner / nickel. He's played a good bit of snaps, or a good percentage of his snaps at both. He's someone who mostly played in the nickel in 2025. Then I believe his injuries happened and forced him to play outside corner, where he actually played pretty decent. Kind of got the Triquez Bridges treatment, where it's like, all right, you got to play somewhere. Like we need bodies. We need someone to play this position. Can you do it? And if the answer is yes, then go do it. And that's kind of what Kanye Clark got thrown into at UCLA. But again, he lined up out wide and he actually played fairly well. I think Florida might be shifting more towards a legitimate cornerback at nickel as opposed to the safety look like a Coleman or Dooley. I think you'll see 3 safety sets still, but I think that they're going to be shifting a little bit more towards an actual corner. Kanye Clark, a guy that can do that. But again, some of his better film was at outside corner. So I really don't know. I think you just brought in someone that you can say, hey, he's going to rotate at both spots. Oh, and by the way, he's got 3 years of eligibility remaining. Okay. He's got 3 years of eligibility remaining. 2025 is the only year he used eligibility. In 2023, he walked on, earned a scholarship, redshirted. 2024, he took a medical redshirt after getting hurt in week 2, I want to say it was. 2025, played, burned his first year of eligibility. So he's someone that's been in college for 3 years and still has 3 years of eligibility. I like that. Again, this is part of the John Sumrall. You've got multiple years of experience and multiple years of eligibility. And experience being you've got playing time, but also you've got time in college, strength conditioning program, all that stuff. You're mature. I think it's a solid approach. I really do. And then you have the most recent addition, which committed yesterday, and it's Jordy Lowry, who was an FCS All-American at West Carolina in 2024, transferred to East Carolina for 2025, and is once again making a transition, this time to Florida. Great ball skills, an absolute dog out there. And I spoke about this on the live show. Like, I love a corner that just has attitude. Your quarterback targets you, and I'm covering you, and it's an incompletion. I'm talking. I don't care what it was. I'm the type where it's like, yep, you had the drop, go ahead, talk it. Don't care. It doesn't matter to me. My one job is make sure you don't catch the football. You didn't catch the football. That's all that matters to me. Like, that's it. It's like, do I care if we won sloppy or clean? I mean, I care how we did it, but the job is win. And if we win, then that's really what matters. And so I look at, coverage the same way. Doesn't matter if it's clean, sloppy, whatever. If I stopped you from catching the ball, or if you didn't catch the ball, I win. Plain and simple. And so I think Jordy Lowry comes in, has that attitude. I think he comes in, has great ball skills, right? He's got, I think it was 6 interceptions and 12 passes broken up over 2 years of playing time. Incredible production. I think he's someone that comes in, has 1 year of eligibility remaining. I think he's going to be part of the corner rotation. I don't know if he's going to be a starter, but I do think he's going to be part of the corner rotation and come in, contribute, maybe make some plays, go league bound, right? Completely outside corner, by the way, has not played in the nickel. I don't anticipate him coming to play in the nickel. I think when you have someone with ball skills like that, you put him outside. And you say, all right, you throw it this way at your own risk. But these are tighter windows on the outside. I've got good ball skills. Try me. I think it's a hell of an approach. And Florida also added to their special teams. We'll talk about that when we get back with Locked On Gators. The Florida Gators added to their special teams, and we're going to talk about that to wrap up today's episode of Locked On Gators. Also, I will say, I think we're going to go live today at about noon-ish Eastern time. I think we're going to try to swing that maybe a little early, maybe a little later. We're going to say noon, give or take an hour. Right, that's going to be the plan. But the Florida Gators went into the transfer portal to completely revamp their special teams. Right, the big additions being kicker Patrick Durkin and punter Alec Clark. And the reason that they are big additions, those two players, is because those are the only two players. Again, Patrick Durkin, Alec Clark. Those are the only two players out of the entire roster that John Summerall brought with him from Tulane to Florida. That's it. Which, I mean, to me was kind of amazing. Like I thought for sure you'd bring someone else. We talked about the edge, defensive lineman, guard. We talked about a bunch of guys, but nope, wasn't the way they wanted to go. But he also brought his special teams coordinator, Coach Galante, and Coach Galante brought his kicker and his punter, both Aussies, so they're good. That's the rule, right? If you're Australian kicker or punter, you're good. You have to be. And Patrick Durkin and Alec Clark were two of the best specialists in the entire country last year. There's a reason that Tulane had one of the best special teams units in the entire country last year, right? Whether you're talking, field goal percentage or field goal makes, we'll say, whether you're talking average punt, whether you're talking hang time, whether you're talking average field position for both offense and defense, you're there, right? You're there. And obviously, kicker and punter do not play a part in average field position for offense. But Tulane, average field position for offense and defense were both great. That's more obviously on the return, and the blocking should be good, right? You got a lot of athletes on this defense or on this team right now that can contribute in a lot of ways. Special teams will be one of them. So you brought Patrick Durkin, Alec Clark, both here. Ready to do it on a bigger stage, right? And that's also a thing that does matter, I think. Like doing it on a bigger stage, there's more pressure, more eyes on you. And you'll find out real quick if these guys are built like that, right? Florida also brought in two long snappers, which was interesting to say the least, right? They brought in long snapper Carter Milleron from Louisiana, who redshirted in 2025, played the years prior, and comes to Florida with 1 year of eligibility. Okay, 1 year of eligibility coming to Florida. Don't look at the PFF grades. They're horrible, but if you want proof that the PFF grades don't matter for long snappers, they also have Rocco Underwood with a bad PFF grade. And he is arguably the best long snapper in college football this year and will probably be an NFL long snapper. Like it's wild, really. Like I don't remember the last time I saw a long snapper that hits like him. It's wild. And so PFF grades do not matter for long snappers. We have that confirmed. Carter Milleron coming to, I think the expectation is to start in 2026 as the long snapper. But then you also brought in Hunter Solwald from Washington. And Hunter Solwald is someone that, whether or not he starts this year, again, I'm assuming Carter Milleron and Hunter Solwald will compete for the long snapper 1 spot this year during spring ball and fall camp. Regardless of that, Hunter Solwald will likely be the Florida Gators starting long snapper in 2027. Right? Young, 3 years of eligibility, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe 4, actually. He actually might have 4 years of eligibility. I mean, he might have redshirted to Washington. But he's got at least 3 years of eligibility remaining. Let him, if he does have 4, let him burn 1 this year and let him focus on the future. But I think that Florida, it was important for you to just establish special teams because you lost good special teamers, right? Like Trace Mack is someone that I think a lot of Florida fans, frankly, I'm going to be just really honest with all you guys, like really direct with it. A lot of Florida fans grossly misjudged Trace Mack and grossly underappreciated him. Florida has a pretty solid history of having really talented kickers. And I need you to know that most college football teams do not have anything close to NFL kickers, like guys that won't even get a look in the NFL. And Florida had a guy that will be kicking in the NFL next year in Trey Smack. Okay? I want to throw that out there, that he will be kicking in the NFL. You lost punter Tommy Doman, who I also don't think was great, but he also was the league or the country leader in hang time, or like top 3 in hang time. And I think that had Florida's offense gotten them just like closer to their own 40, there would have been a lot more punts, pinned back inside the 20. Not a great leg, but really good with hang time. And that would have been great again if your offense just gave you a fighting chance to get the opposing team pinned down more often. And of course, like I mentioned, like you lost Rocco Underwood, who one of the best long snappers you're going to see. Just like not many mistakes throughout his entire career at Florida, and he played a lot of snaps there, or he snapped the ball a lot, we'll say. Not a lot of mistakes. You don't see long snappers that hit the way that he hits and talk trash the way that he talks trash. Florida lost talent on special teams. You brought in Coach Galante. You brought in 2 players that Coach Galante is very familiar with. You brought in 2 long snappers that can come compete. And in 2026, you're looking up again, right? I don't know if they're going to be as good as they were last year, but you're looking up. We'll see what the return game looks like. I have no idea what their plan is there. Do you put one of the running backs that you brought in from the portal? Do you put one of the backup receivers? Jalen Lloyd's never returned kicks, but he's fast as hell. Do you have him do it? Do you have one of the younger players on the roster do it? Just get some experience to contribute in that way. A lot of different directions you can go. Personally, I'll say this. I'm generally against having a starting skill position player returning kicks. I hate it. I just think that there's too many injuries that happen on kick returns. I'd rather keep you fresh for offense or defense. But hey, whatever happens, happens, right? Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day, we are available daily and free wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. We will be back tomorrow. Actually, we'll be back later on today. Just if you have the notifications turned on, you will get a notification. If you're part of the subtext program, the insider program, you will get a text about that. If you're part of the Locked On Everydayers Club, which is supercast.com/LockedOnGators, then you could have part of that as well. LockedOnGators.supercast.com. Then you can join that. $5 a month. We got a Discord in there. You'll get the notifications there as well. And for Locked On Gators, I'm Brandon Olsen. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with New York Giants on SI and my Florida Gators written work with swampsignal.substack.com. And I will see you all next time.